Welcome to the Tech Sales Show, dedicated to making you a better seller. Recorded 4,827 miles across the Atlantic Ocean with Bobby Doss from Houston, Texas, a father, husband, golfer, pilot, and tech seller. And Brian Evans, an expat in London, England, family man, 2X Ironman, and an ERP salesman. Both sharing tried and true sales strategies and providing free tools to make each week and campaign easier for you. They also answer your questions weekly. Now, here is Bobby and Brian.
Hey, Bobby.
What's up, Brian?
Welcome, everyone, to the Tech Sales Show, where we are focused on helping you to be a better tech seller. This, Bobby, is Series 6, Episode 3 of Sales Productivity. This is all about winning the day. Bobby, why don't you take us through what we've covered in the first two parts of this series and what we're going to talk about today?
The first episode, we talked about getting caught up. Everybody falls behind at times. We don't always like the feeling of being overwhelmed. So we talked a lot about how to get caught up. In the second episode of this series, we talked about keeping up. For salespeople, we probably all break our year down into years, quarters, months, weeks, days. And we tried to walk you through the process that we use and some that we've heard others use to keep up with everything that's going on. Today, we're wrapping up the series with winning the day. How do you go about winning your day? How do you get time to do all the things you want to do from a personal perspective while nailing your day job and then getting a few of those hobbies worked in as well? We've talked about it on each of the first couple episodes, but I want you to do it one more time, Brian, because I think it's so key to really what we talk about when we talk about productivity, and that's the quote you found online.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they think of sales productivity, they think, I don't want to be a tools geek. I don't want to be known for being very technical. It's not about that at all. For us, this is, we cannot let the small things divert us from the big goals. So the quote I found was, "We are only as big as the smallest thing it takes to divert us from our goals." And again, being smart when it comes to how we prioritize our day and what tools we use is all about helping us focus on what's most strategic and what's most important to being successful in your job.
No doubt. Love the quote. Love that we are kicking the series off and ending the series with said quote. So don't let the little things distract you. So this week, it's all about winning the day. I think if you really focus on our tips and tricks for getting caught up and then keeping up, winning the day becomes a whole lot easier. I see people all the time really struggle with letting the little things and what I think are most of the time urgent things keep them from winning the day, and then that makes everyone start the day way behind. We talked a little bit about the inbox and what that inbox with thousands of unread emails will do to someone when they look at it. It's that overwhelmed feeling. It's kind of what all those little things are doing. So let's keep from falling too far behind, and then let's figure out how we're going to win the day. So 3 sections to this episode. Focus on important. You've heard it in the other 2 episodes, and you're going to hear it again here. But this one is really about the day. So focus on the important, automate what you can, and then finish the day. Not finish the workday, but finish the day. So let's kick things off with focus on the important. Brian, I heard this tip a while back when I was going through some coaching with a friend of mine that I asked for some coaching all around, and he said he just read a book, and pretty much the entire book was about just write down the top 6 things you want to accomplish each day. Quit the big long to-do lists, quit having a legal pad with 12 pages of things on them. Me and you both used Trello. We talked about it a lot. And I actually created a top 6 card in Trello. So the goal of that is that nighttime routine that I think both of us have, where we sit down and figure out what are the 6 things we're going to focus on or knock out tomorrow. They should be important things. That's why it's in the focus on the important section. And when I think about those 6 things, not every day do I get to all the 6 things.
Sure.
But I don't transpose those last 3 things that I didn't get to my next list. I start fresh. I create a new list. A lot of times things don't make it to the next day, which frees me up because I'm not doing them. What is it that you do? We talked last episode about that, focusing on your pipeline and those deals right when you wake up. But how do you pick and focus on the most important when you start your day, Brian?
Well, I think there are 2 things to two things I think about there. One is kind of the tactical execution there. I love the idea of having a Trello card that's very focused on what you need to take care of today. I do something kind of similar with my home list. So I have a Trello grouping for my home stuff that I'm thinking about, whether that's, taking care of the lawn, going into town to pick something up on the weekend. But I have a very set weekend list that I take care of personally as well. But when I think about what those top 6 items are for me, I do kind of minimize Trello and have a separate notepad out that has the top, and it's generally like 3 or 4 things for me, the 3 or 4 most important things I need to take care of in any given day. And I think while tools like Trello are fantastic for helping you not forget things, it can be a little bit overwhelming because we all tend to kind of collect to-dos and collect tasks. So I think it's good to purge things from that, but it's also good to have a very narrow focused, this is what I need to take care of today.
No doubt. Good tips. I think one thing that I've seen a lot of salespeople struggle with when we're thinking about the bucket of how do we focus on the important, and again, we're thinking about the day here, people. So when I'm in my day, how do I really focus on what's important? The one really important thing that salespeople seem to always forget is building pipeline for the future. So maybe I pick on you for a minute, Brian. You said you're going to focus on those deals you knew were in flight. Yep. How do you make sure you focus on those deals that you haven't put into flight yet? The uncovering the new opportunities. How do you make that important part of your sales cycle be a part of your day?
Yeah, it's a good one. So I have these kind of reoccurring items on my calendar that, so for example, in my current job, it's not about necessarily like doing cold calls and trying to get meetings arranged. It's more for new pipeline, that is. It's more about helping our inside sales organization kind of train them and prepare them to get us meetings for qualified opportunities. So what I have on my calendar reoccurring is schedule a trip out to Dublin. So I'll have that on like a Thursday morning, and then I'll reach out to the sales manager in Dublin and say, hey, I'd like to come out. Let's do this in 3 weeks, and let's focus on X or Y. So for me, that's less of a task and more of a reoccurring calendar reminder to make sure I'm focusing on that correct activity.
Okay, so for the thousands, hopefully tens of thousands of people listening, just go to Dublin, talk to a sales manager, do a bunch of pipeline building, and then expense it, see what your boss says. That's not what everybody can do, Brian. So sure. What might we be able to suggest to some people to focus on the future in their current role where they're not a global specialist like yourself?
Yeah, it's the small things, right? If you're
just go to Dublin,
just go to Dublin, just knock it out, go to Dublin. I think if you're an account executive and you got your patch, and let's say you've got your 40 customers in your patch, we talked about, and when we shared on TechSalesShow.com, in our tools section, we have the Google Sheets, and that Google Sheet has a list of accounts, and you can prioritize them based off kind of where you've got them in your pipeline. If I'm in your shoes, I'm an account executive. I want to focus on what the most crucial accounts are, and let's say it's 40 accounts, 40 prospects. Maybe on your to-do list every day is to contact 2 people. It's something simple. It's not overwhelming. You're not saying I want to grab 6, but maybe once you kind of get in the rhythm of it, you go beyond 2, you get 3 off that list. So it's being very intentional about who it is you're targeting every single day.
Yeah, and I like that. That's a little bit of an overlay on call 10. I know we talk about it a lot, so I'll skip it today. But it's also about partners and other vendors that support your business. It's just caring about other people and talking to them. Do something to be proactive in your attempt to help others be successful, then they'll help you be successful. But I do believe it's a big, important part of the day that a lot of people lose sight of. And then it kicks them in the butt always when they're starting their quarter and they have no pipeline, and then they have a 90-day sales cycle that's never realistic.
So Bobby, let's take that to we kind of talked about it from a time of year standpoint. How does your schedule look, let's say in Q4 versus a Q1?
Well, good year or bad year, but it may depend. But in a good year, hopefully I've done a lot to build for it. I'll even break that out and say, is it a 3-year run? Where in my 3-year run am I? I've tried to think of my sales jobs, managers or individual contributors, kind of as 3-year runs. I guess this would be pro tip. Every time I've interviewed, I've asked for at least a 3-year opportunity, because you can't get it all done in 6 months. You never can put a feather in your hat and feel like you finished it in 1 year. So I've asked for 3 years every time. So if I'm in my first year, Q4 might be a little less busy than a future Q4, but I would say it's probably a little seasonality towards the end of that Q3 into Q4. If I keep the same set of accounts, hopefully I'm able to blend that out a little bit broader across and think longer term. Maybe I heard stuff in month 1 that's going to really close in month 35 of that 3-year run. Either way, I think I have always done a spreadsheet. We talked a little bit about it in earlier series, where I talk about a list of everything that would be possible. If I'm selling kitchen sinks, I put everything, including the kitchen sink, on this list that I could sell. And I'm trying to touch each one of those opportunities, each piece of that white space in all those accounts. And as I'm building that pipeline, it really will be on the business of the customer to articulate or dictate when that's going to close. I might be able to create an impending event based on price or add-ons or features. We've talked about some of that in negotiating, but I hope that I don't have so much seasonality that my company's driving my behavior more than my customers are driving my behavior.
Yeah, yep, that makes sense. And then, so when you're thinking about those tasks and you're thinking about kind of, I like the idea of kind of having a 3-year plan for your prospect base that helps you to think more long term, that helps you to think about building pipeline just outside of the current fiscal year or financial year. How do you group your tasks during the day? I mean, just getting really into the weeds, because I think that's what a lot of people struggle with, is they wake up in the morning and they're like, all right, cool, I've got these 6 things I need to do today. How do you group things to stay organized during the day?
Yeah, so I really think of this list of top six things nowadays. That's really been a part of my day for the last 90 days or so. And I think it's helped me go from what is sitting right next to me right now that you can hear. This is my legal pad with 3 or 4 sheets of things that I've always got by my side, and it's the noise. It truly is the noise. But it's a lot of those brainstorming and thoughts and ideas that I don't want to lose track of. They'll ultimately become electronic somewhere, or they'll get scratched off and not done. The 6 things are, if I get behind for whatever reason in Salesforce updates, which we all do, right? Then I know my boss is going to come down on me. So that might be one of my top 6 things. Those 6 things are hopefully not urgent, but they got some meat to them. If I feel like my prospecting's getting weak, then one of those top 6 things probably becomes prospecting or filling that funnel. And I will block some time on my calendar, stop the madness. I'll make some, not necessarily cold calls, but I'll try and take some people to lunch that I haven't taken people to lunch with in a while. I'll talk to some partners. My call 10 might fluctuate a little bit more on the prospect side of the phone call list. But I break it down into those 6 things that are most important, and then I think it's probably more experience than anything. But I think of really 3 key buckets to the sales role, right? It's definitely, we'll call it being a challenger, but I have to be able to hold people accountable for the deals that I have in flight, right? Are we on track with the reverse timelines and all the things that we've agreed to? Yes or no, and where those fall off, that's just deal management. Then I think I have to prospect for the future, and there's a certain amount of that. It's probably not a third, but and then the third part of that really is build relationships. Those can be internal, external, or inside my customers. But if I do those 3 things, I'm probably a pretty good sales rep. So if I had to help somebody break down their day, are they spending a little bit of time in all 3 of those? Probably in that order, right? Focus on the deals at hand. Focus on the future, building pipeline, and then building relationships across your network and your customer base. I think people would have a pretty good tactical day if they did that as a sales rep. And
I know we need to move on to the next one, but a quick question, because I think this varies for everyone. What do you focus? We all have tasks on that, let's say your list of 6 of. There are things you like to do and there are things you don't like to do. Do you start with the thing you do like to do or that you don't like to do?
Well, I'd like to profess perfection here and say I do the most important thing no matter what, but I probably have this approach by which I do a couple things that are easy. Now, most would tend to say that's what I like to do, and most commonly they probably are the things that I like to do. But I'm probably good at them. So if I have to build a spreadsheet for something, I'm probably going to do that, whether I like it or don't like it, because it's easy for me and I know I can knock that down and get other people set on their way. If it's something that I'm going to delegate, I probably try to delegate because I know that I can maximize my day if I get 2 or 3 other people helping me do the things that need to get done. But I think I've shared this story a bunch. You know what I'm going to say, but if there's a big rock, big proposal, if there's training that's due today, has to be done today, that is the last thing I ever get done on any given day, and all the other things get accomplished. I don't know why it's like that. I want to say there's something about procrastination in there. I know I've read articles on it that other people are like that, but I normally, whatever that huge mountainous task is, everything gets done before that one, and I still get that one done before it's due, for sure.
Yeah. I'm pretty similar. There's a certain dopamine effect of getting something marked off your task list that feels really good, to archive something in Trello or to erase something from the to-do list. So I'm very similar. It'll feel good to get a quick win, a meeting scheduled, an internal call knocked out, a customer call knocked out. If I can do that early in the day and I've got enough caffeine with me, that becomes kind of the rock rolling down the hill for me. It kind of becomes momentum that helps me get a lot of things accomplished in the morning.
Perfect. So the last piece that we have in Focus on the Important is really find a way to batch common tasks. Probably a tip that I got from Tim Ferriss that I haven't given him credit in a while for something, but definitely batching the common tasks is something that I've gotten really good at. Was really hard to do before. I haven't looked at my inbox for work in the last 2 hours today, maybe 3 hours today. None of it's going to make or break me. I know it's not, but man, I used to look at that inbox all the time. Now I really pick times during the day where I'm going to work on email. And if I don't work on email at 9 o'clock at night, it's not going to be the end of the world. And if I don't do it first thing when I get up, it's not going to be the end of the world. I love the way Nadine Cherry talked about her morning routine, and that she doesn't look at email until she gets to the office and in her chair. Would make most people cringe to think about it. But I batch that. I batch follow-ups. I batch calls. So I try to do those 3 activities in a grouping throughout the day. And some emails, obviously, something I do every day. Sometimes I group calls at a different point during the week. And I always try and do follow-ups within 24 hours. But I don't try to do them immediately after I walk out. I try to let those things marinate so I can come up with better ideas to serve my partners and my customers.
There's a great saying out there that I'm going to go blank on it. You have to treat people, or you have to show people how you want to be treated. And I think when it comes to email, if it frustrates you that you're expected to have a response to an email within 32 seconds, or there's going to be a text message, or there's going to be a message on Slack or whatever sort of internal tools you use, you should kind of hold yourself accountable to that, because that's the expectation you set. Anybody that works with Nadine knows that she is incredibly responsive, really sharp. She's going to hit the nail on the head, right? Everyone's going to be impressed working with her. But everyone knows that she's set her communication schedule. That doesn't frustrate anybody, but she no longer is beholden to this timeline that's impossible to keep track of.
No doubt. And the last manager gig I had 18 months or so ago, I never sent email on the weekends, which also created a sense of comfort, I think, for my employees, that I wasn't expecting them to send and do email on the weekend either. Yeah. Which is pretty important. So those are some tips to focus on the important in a given day. The next thing that we want to talk about is automating what you can. We talked a little bit about it earlier, that I'd like to automate in one of the earlier points in my day, just because if I can get people working on things that are going to help me and my customers, then the better off to be. If I wait till the end of the day, it's not going to get anything done. So I've talked about a lot of little things. Brian, I know you're going to talk about a few things, but for me, game changer in the last 4 years is, and this will probably surprise people, but I have a personal assistant who does an awful lot for me. And it started small, and I think everyone should at least try it. There's millions of websites for virtual assistants out there. I've used one called asksunday.com, ASKSUNDAY.com. It is overseas. They would probably amaze you with what you can do. I think one time you sent me a spreadsheet, Brian, where you had all kinds of columns out of whack and couldn't figure out how to move some data around. And I sent it to my personal assistant at the time and came back exactly the way both of us had struggled for probably hours to get the data formatted the way we wanted. And it took them, they bid an hour of work, which is like $2
downstairs
an hour for me, and got that knocked out. So find a way to work with some of these personal assistants to knock out some of that minimal task type basis stuff, and use it. Any tip around personal assistants or something like that, Brian, that you've used?
Well, I think that's probably worth a whole other episode, Bobby. I think it's a really cool thing what you've got going there. So I know we've talked about it earlier this year in 2018. We talked about personal assistants and how they help support us across all aspects. So that'd be a great just singular episode on its own.
We'll table that one and put it on the list.
Table it. I think for me, automation is all about. So I basically now 75% plus of my time I use an iPad Pro for my work.
Who turned you onto that?
I think you brought one over when you were visiting Windsor, and it's a game changer. I love it. You like to have kind of the notepad next to you. I like to have everything kind of in its place as it's occurring. So, for example, when I'm in a meeting with a prospect, I've got OneNote open. I've also got kind of the windows, how you can put them next to each other, and I've got Trello open as well. So that as tasks come up in that meeting, I'm putting them in Trello, and I've got kind of a running list that I can summarize at the end of the meeting. For me, that's automation to me, is to be able to leave that meeting and not have to spend half an hour summarizing notes. And I know not everyone's like that. Some people don't like to, they think like having a device up between you and the prospect can be seen negatively. I generally ask permission of the prospect to say, hey, I'm going to be taking notes on our meeting here, to kind of get their support for it. Although I'm finding kind of more and more, I see a lot of customers do it as well.
Yeah, I think it's standard nowadays. I work for a company that doesn't find Apple to be the fondest partner in the world,
Sure.
So I don't get to use my iPad at work as much as I probably wish I could at times. But I do have my brand new Dell XPS 13 out and going, and have all those tools up and running that'll sync later on. So I definitely do that as well. And I'm a note-taking freak and find ways to really capture all those notes. We've talked about it. If I have to build the email or the spreadsheet more than once, I'm gonna find a way to automate it. We have talked a lot about my quick parts video that's out on our YouTube channel. If you just take 2 seconds to go watch that video, you will be impressed with how much Outlook will do of your work for you. And those automated tasks are amazing, whether you're using Windows or the Mac. We show you how to really automate that follow-up and save yourself a bunch of time.
I use TripIt quite a bit as well. So I do, as we called out the trip to Dublin. I'm on the train quite a bit to different parts of to England and Wales for business. And TripIt is fantastic. It's a free app that you can download out of the App Store for Google. Or for iOS, and then of course it's got a browser app as well. So basically, once you set your free account up, you can forward on an itinerary, whether that's a flight, a hotel, a combination of a flight, a hotel, a train. You can forward it to trips@tripit.com. It recognizes the email address you sent it from, and it automatically builds an itinerary for you. It's a total lifesaver for me, and then that syncs directly with my Outlook calendar. So again, the aim here is not to technology for technology's sake. The use case here is, I booked a flight on trainline.com this morning. I got my confirmation email within about 10 minutes. I forwarded that straight to trips@tripit.com. And there's no more, okay, do I have my time blocked off on Outlook? Do I have my confirmation number saved? It's all 100% complete. And now I can focus on that more strategic set of activities that I got for the day.
Yeah, and I think that's really what automate means. It doesn't mean give all your work away to other people, but finding a way to take. I would bet a lot of people spend 45 minutes to an hour organizing themselves around a trip like that. And if you're saying it takes you 10 minutes to do it, well, that's 50 minutes as time saving, which can go to something like exercise or a hobby or family or more work so that you can close more business. It's your choice at that point, but fantastic tip.
Yeah, and a plug for your quick parts too, Bobby. I know you called it out before. We're going to link to your quick parts on the show notes for the episode. But it's been, what is it? It's 5 or 10 minute.
Yeah, something like
recording.
that.
Yeah, it's this is a total game changer when it comes to automating reoccurring things that you do in email. So have a look at it.
And then I think the last tip for automating is take away the noise. Automate not seeing what's distracting you throughout the day. We've both talked about in this series how we don't have a lot of notifications that pop up. It's been kind of a little painful because I've even stopped Strava notifications, Brian, because you run so freaking much that I can't even give you enough kudos. But the noise of that popping up and then me getting distracted and to the OCD in me saying I need that red circle to be not on my Strava icon, so then I got to go make 3 clicks that they want me to make into their app to do it. And then while I'm there, I got to give you kudos, and then I look at your picture and it drains. It just adds upon ads of time suck. So seriously, people, turn off the notifications. And if Strava's an easy one, think about the harder ones. Twitter was not an easy breakup. Facebook notifications was not an easy breakup because we want to see your comments and your likes on our page for the Tech Sales Show. So, but it does save me time by limiting the noise and turning some of that stuff off.
I think most people that listen to our podcast know that we listen to Adam Carolla. And while he can be a pretty crude guy, I think one of his funnier sayings is, if it doesn't make me money, or doesn't make me happy, then no thanks. And I think you almost have to kind of be crude with your time here as well. Strava is, man, it's much like Facebook. I need to consider removing it myself, because not only do you have to go into the app and you have to click like, well, to get that red notification off, you have to click the activity to see what was creating the bubble on there too. You're talking 6 clicks, and I know that to some people seems like that's ridiculous. Like, why? You're being a little silly with productivity, but to Bobby's earlier point, it's the culmination of all these time burners that really kill things for you.
No doubt. So part 3 of the episode, finish the day, not the work day. So a lot of the chatter that Brian I have shared with you guys is people ask us all the time, how do we do so much? How do we have so much free time on our hands? It's not that we don't work hard and that we're not doing our day job. It's that we have these boundaries and we really think about finishing the day and sometimes starting the day. So we've talked a little bit about that. I start my day extremely early now. And that's because of my schedule and my wife's schedule. So our exercise time has been bumped up to really early in the morning. And what that's created for me, incidentally, is a block of time to get a lot of the noise out of my day for work. And I would suspect in a lot of cases, and please coworkers and boss, if you're listening, don't hold me accountable to this, but I would bet I get more done in those 2.5 hours than most of my team does in the entire day, because it's noise free. It's so hard to get that stuff done. So if you think of my starting point, I'm so far ahead of the rest of my teammates, just by sheer luck that I have 2.5 hours of downtime in the morning from 5 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. that I'm way ahead of the game. Brian, I know you have a day plan and you finish your days. What would be the one big one for you that says you get this thing going so you get to finish the day?
Well, so I'd say that for me, being kind of fit and exercising and eating right fuels me to have very productive long days. So being ready to perform an exercise and cycle and run the way I want to means I need to get good quality rest. And I I think we talked about this Whoop strap that I got probably 2 months ago, and was a little bit on the fence, didn't know exactly what to expect from it. One thing it's forced me to do is it measures my sleep, and then it measures, not only that, it measures how ready I am to perform the next day by measuring heart rate variability and your resting heart rate. I say all this to say it is abundantly clear to me now. I have overwhelming evidence that says if I can get 7 hours of sleep at nights, I can get a great workout in, a good spin in on the indoor bike now that it's getting dark in Windsor. Which means that I'm going to have a very productive day because I'm going to have, heart's going to feel good. I'm going to feel motivated and got the good endorphins running through me. So good sleep is really important, and it impacts a lot that goes on in my day.
Yeah, and I'll throw out a little tidbit there that I think it has almost become cool to talk about how little you sleep. It was one of the things that I used to think was really important to share or over-advertise, that I could work on 4 hours of sleep. But people, if you can get that 7 or 8 hours of rest, you will be better at your job, you'll be better at your life, and you'll be better at doing the things you love to do. So, Inbox Zero. Brian, share your perspective, and then I'll share my perspective. This is the one thing that we've both done for a long time to finish the day.
Yeah, this is both for me on personal and work stuff. If I wake up in the morning and I have an email from Haverty's Furniture Store, that is a mistake, and I have all of that cleaned up at this point. I do not wake up in the morning in anything in my personal email that is some sort of advertisements. And if I do, it's because I've missed it. So it's emails that I need to action, or it's an email that I need to read. Same is true on the work front. We talked about this in the previous parts of the series. All the newsletters, all of the reports, the group emails, the marketing campaign stuff, all of that gets routed into folders. Those folders are then, I've got time blocked in my calendar that I go through and read those, but I don't want to wake up in the morning with 62 emails and 24 of them be marketing emails and just general conversation. I want to wake up in the morning and have a good clean inbox, which is working backwards from how I want to finish the day. There should probably only be 2 or 3 emails in my inbox when I finish up my day, and those are the things that are kind of things that may be on fire and are important, or just things that I'm still trying to decide, am I available on that day to accept this meeting request? How about you?
Yeah, I would say, I'll start there. Those last couple of emails in my inbox normally are things I'm still keeping my eyes on. Probably someone else has the action. Yep. I may have the action, but I'm watching to see when the next email comes in, then I'll move the one that was before that out, and just kind of keep watching that conversation and or the expectation on what I'm expecting to have happen with that. As it relates to it's been hard for me over the last 10 years, but actually hitting the delete button, getting rid of things. I'm never going to go back and look at that stuff. I don't need that history. I've unsubscribed from literally everything that I don't care about, back to Adam Carolla's, if it's not going to make me money or it's not going to make me happy, I don't. So a lot of things that are non-work related, my personal stuff that just kept coming. The Dynamo Soccer newsletter that I was just tired of seeing, it's not that hard to hit unsubscribe to that. Just because you bought one set of tickets for a game doesn't mean you need to subscribe forever. And I know, and I've picked on her, my wife, there's people that have hundreds of those coming in a day, and you're missing the real important stuff by seeing all that. So it's not that we believe every inbox should be empty and that should control your day or time, but if you manage it correctly, which most don't, then it should be easy to maintain and keep up with. When we both worked for Microsoft, one of the things I thought was a telltale sign of someone who managed it correctly was Steve Ballmer said he responded to all his own email and kept up with his own inbox, because he probably had some pretty stringent rules, and it wasn't that impossible to do. He just had somebody filtering out a lot of junk, no question.
I think the big misconception about this is people that have zero inbox are just sitting by their email waiting for the next email to come in so they can file it away. That's not the case at all. If that's what you're doing, that's the wrong way to do it. There will be times to where I'll be done with meetings, or I'll be reading through an RFP, writing some responses down, And I'll look down at my email and I'll have 42 emails that I received over the past 4 hours while I wasn't on email. And then triage becomes very quick, because what you'll find is some of these quote-unquote problems get solved during those 3 hours too.
No doubt. I hate when I make the mistake of responding to something and then seeing that I didn't pay attention to that other email that came that already solved it, for sure. So last thing, for the finishing the day, it is important to exercise, the family, all those things. I think I let a lot of it go early on in my children's life because I was chasing this career. Maybe it helped me, maybe it didn't, but I know I missed that time and I know I can't get it back. So focus on the important things around family, your body, your exercise. Those are very important. And if you don't take time to do those, then that's gonna be a snowball that you're gonna get way behind on health. You're gonna get way behind with family, and unfortunately, sometimes you're not gonna be able to fix it. I've seen too many acquaintances and close friends lose their spouse or go a different direction because they let work get in the way. People, it's not that important. I can assure you of that part for sure. And I think it's a big part of why Brian and I, to those around us, seem like we've got all this time. We make sure we knock out those things and participate with our family. And a lot of times it makes the hard days and the long weekends a little bit easier, because we know we're doing it for something that's bigger and greater than us, for sure.
Love it. Couldn't say it any better.
Okay, so let's wrap it up. This 3-episode series has been all about sales productivity. I think we spun at least one new episode and or series up on how to outsource and take advantage of personal assistants. We'll start working on scripting that one out and making it available to you guys. If you have ideas, please share them with us. Quick recap on this, and I think the most important thing, let's call it pun intended, is focus on important, not the urgent. Automate what you can and finish your day. If you do those 3 things and you do them well, you will be a low-key, calm sales rep throughout your career, and I know that you'll be very, very successful. If you listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play, please give us a 5-star review. If you don't think we earned a 5-star review, get us an email at info@techsaleshow.com and let us know what you think. Anything before we wrap it, Brian?
Yep, new domain is techsaleshow.com. Check us out there. I have all the logos flipped over at this point. Would love to get your feedback on that. And if you like this series, you're enjoying this series, like you said, Bobby, give us a 5-star rating. If not, give us some feedback. And how about share this on LinkedIn if you're enjoying it?
Perfect. As always, average sucks. Average is the enemy. Thanks for listening to the Tech Sales Show.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Sales Show with Bobby and Brian. Subscribe to their email list by going to bobbyandbrian.com and follow them on Twitter @BobbyBrianSales.